order on March 11th, and we will call the Tirz meeting, Zone 1, to order. And Jack is going to lead us in a prayer and the Pledge Allegiance.
The Lord be with you. Good and gracious Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to work together for the betterment of our community. Thank you for the guidance that you're about to give us and the hope for the future that we will exude to our fellow citizens as we move forward. Dear Lord, please bless this place. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Doesn't look like we have any visitors today, so anybody signed up that isn't sitting here? All right. Minutes of the last meeting, and I think you're going to pop those up on the screen, yes? Are they going to be on the screen or no?
They may be in.
No, okay. Did you all have a chance to look them over? They were sent out. Okay, and I don't believe they're actually not in our packet. Are you comfortable going ahead and voting on those?
One quick correction. The name Holly White Griffin should be Holly White Gert, G-E-H-R-T. Gert, or Gert, G-E-H-R-T.
Anything else that anybody else has? All right, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
We have a second with, as presented with one name change. All in favor, if you'll raise your right hand, please. And it passes. Okay, monthly reports. We're going to start off with money.
Who doesn't love money? I'll wait for Martin just a second, and then he'll bring up that presentation. Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon, Tirz Board. My name is Jacob Bogish, and I am the Finance Compliance Coordinator for the City of Kerrville, for those of you that haven't already met me. And today I'll be presenting the annual report and financial update. Okay. So, in accordance with Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code, an annual report needs to be filed by the 150th day following the end of the fiscal year for the Tirz, and I have provided that at your seat as well as in the packet, and I am available to answer any questions that you have on that report. If you haven't already taken a look at it, feel free to take a look, and then if you're good, I'll move on. If not, I'm here to answer any questions.
And that's the one-page
Yes, ma'am.
required annual reporting. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The fiscal year ended September 30.
Yes, sir.
What is our tax, or what is our status at this point? You're going to get to that later, or is
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Sorry.
All good? Sweet. Martin, can you push me to the next one? Yeah. I mean, the first one, right? Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Okay. So here's a little snapshot of where you ended fiscal year 2025. You had $368,518 in revenue, and $25 in expenses. This brings your ending fund balance to $1,009,683. Are there any questions?
Would you pop that last one back up?
Yep.
The one after that.
Which one?
Wasn't there another one?
This one?
Oh, that's all. Okay, I thought there was.
No, the
There
next,
was one after that,
the
Samantha.
last financial one, the next one. Nope,
Okay.
there.
Moving on
That's
to
the one.
26. So this is where we're at today through February 5th of 2026. As of right now, you've collected $317,000, 307 in revenue and have had 0 expenditures to date. I did also want to mention that we did budget property tax very conservatively due to the floods, based on the estimate damages that Kirk had provided us. However, it's still too early for us to tell where we're going to land come September 30th of 2026. However, if everybody pays their taxes and everything goes as planned, we should have about $370,000 in tax revenue. And then I also wanted to provide some historical information for y'all. So here's 2 charts. The one on the left shows historical property tax increment collected, and then the rate of the city's property tax. And then on the right, we have your historical appraised value for the Tirz.
In the slide right before that,
Yes, sir.
is there any indication on this as to the amount that was given out in our most recent grant program? Is
I'll
that
let Kelly speak to that.
okay?
It is, we do have $50,000 set aside for that program, and that's in your FY 2026 expenditure budget.
Okay, but it has not been expended to date.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Oh, that's right. I also wanted to mention that we are updating the cash flow forecast that we provided y'all last time at last meetings. That was that chart that showed the Tirz region going out for the next 30 years or 26 years to the end of the Tirz. We're currently updating that, and we'll get that to you by the end of today.
End of today?
Yes.
56. Okay. All right, anyone have any other questions there? Okay, thank you, Jacob. Would you guys like to have a copy of that sent to you?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
If you will do that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Kelly.
Yes,
Hello, everyone. Happy afternoon. Kelly Hagmeyer, Economic Development Manager. I'm going to do an overview of where we are right now with the Exterior and Enhancement Grant. So we had 42 total responses. The red dots indicate where all of the applicant responses came from. 24 of the, we're just going to refer to them as projects because sometimes there were multiple responses, maybe from the same business, for various projects that they were looking to do. So we had 24 eligible projects or entities, and 13 of those were selected. We asked the applicants what was their overall budget or estimate for the project that they were working on. And over those 42 responses, it was $1.9 million. So I think that that's a really great number for us to keep in mind, that the business owners, the building owners are looking to invest about $2 million into the Tirz at this moment. In total, those funding requests, so the max was $5,000, was $198,790 in grant requests. These are the recipients. totaling the 50,000 of which y'all had set aside. And so these little blue dots indicate where these businesses are located so that you can see. I know that there was some concern that it would be centralized, but the committee worked really hard to make sure that we were kind of spreading it out along all of the Tirz district and also getting various types of businesses and incorporating as much as we could. So this is one that has came into us recently. So Cleaning Ideas right there on Main Street across from HEB. And so these were some of the pictures that they had sent us. And so you can already see it looks so much better. I drove by it just last week and it looks really good. And it does look like it's up for lease, which is something that the committee had said that they were interested in getting buildings looking better so that we can attract a higher retail of some sort. This is a breakout of where we are with the various applicants. So you had about 10 restaurants and bars, 5 retail, 8 services, and then 1 nonprofit, which was Hill Country Casa, who was an award recipient. And then I also broke it out by the types of projects requested: landscaping, building, structural issues, signage, and then parking lots. The As the committee went through all the applications, the things that stood out for us were we set aside parking lots, just because there seemed to be about $30,000 in requests for just parking lots. So that was something that we wanted to discuss with the full committee was, is this something, are parking lots and parking lot enhancements something that we want to still consider into the exterior enhancement grant, or is this a different grant that we would like to put funding into a separate parking lot grant? So here are some images of a couple of parking lots that they had submitted. So we have Wilson's here on the left. We have El Sol. He wanted to upgrade his parking lot. And then Stevens Wealth Management, they wanted to go from a permeable parking lot to a surface parking lot. So none of these projects were funded. 4 of these 7 requesters, they received grant funding, but we specifically identified that it had to be for other projects that they discussed, not the parking lot. So, do y'all have any questions? We still do have multiple applicants that, and this is something that Mr. Orms and I did discuss, is with the amount of applicants that we did receive, even though that 50,000 was set aside for the time being, do we want to put additional funding into it for this initial year? Do we want to split out and look at other types of, do we want to do parking lots separately? Landscaping was something that was in as an eligible project, but then once we started looking at everything, the committee as a whole said that they weren't really keen on landscaping. So is that something we want to do separately or not at all? So
What did the landscaping kind of include? What were they asking or wanting to do?
planters, putting in frontal landscaping, whether it was new plants, all types of things. But the committee as a whole said, well, I don't know if we want that funding to go there, because what if all of a sudden, but they didn't put in the correct irrigation system
What if the
or
plants
something.
die?
Yeah, what if
Right.
it dies?
And we spend a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll speak up. I like the idea of, we did see, so on the tours, Andrew and I were on the committee reviewing these, and to what she's saying, there were a substantial amount that were specifically for parking lot enhancements, bettering it, and we've seen that just in public speaking, that people are coming up and saying we need more walkability, um, we need to better sidewalks, parking lot. So we just, that was one of the reasons why we set it aside. So I think if we just did a separate grant to offer that to local businesses, I think that would be advisable on our committee. I think the need is there.
Andrew?
Yes, I agree. Like, I think there was enough demand for doing for projects that were just the parking lots that we kind of discussed, that it would seem to make logical sense to break that out and possibly do a separate grant just for that.
Now, would most of these end up being private for that business? They wouldn't necessarily enhance public parking necessarily.
Good point.
If I remember right, I think there was some of both in there. But most of it was private. Is that right? You probably have a better.
It was, cause it was Tango Homes, Wilson's, El Sol, and then, yeah, all the restaurants. I know Rails wanted to
Rails, yeah.
redo theirs, Stevens Wealth Management, and I'm missing 2 at the moment. So,
But if you put it back out as a separate grant opportunity, you probably have many more you would put forward.
yeah, I think if we did put it back as parking lot, I think we should. That's something for y'all to consider, you know, because I think that there would be some other interest in that. Also, do we grant money to those who received other funds, like if they already received, because as I said, 4 of those applicants did receive funding, but just not for their parking lots. So it's all stuff to consider. I don't think we need to come up with a clear thing right now, because when in 2 more items we'll talk about all the opportunities that we have with grants. But I just wanted y'all to start having this conversation of what that looks like. And either way, whether we decide to add to the exterior enhancement grant or to add a parking lot grant, we would need to come back and do another formal resolution for that. Yes,
I'm
sir.
pleased that you've got so many all over Tirz. I think that's very nice.
Yeah.
And needs to be that way. So I'm pleased to see that. Do you
One of
have
the
a
things
question?
that is inherent with the question of these parking lots, if we help improve the parking lots, would the owners of these businesses then claim all of the parking spots for that business? Or can we impress upon them that we'd like for them to have parking spaces for their business, but also share whenever possible? I've been around communities that have been very, very, very selfish with their parking spaces, and it destroyed their downtown area. And that, you know, I have seen that happen when people got in parking space fights.
Mhm.
So if we're going to spend these public dollars for these parking lots, let's do as much as we can to make sure that it's used kind of universally and not mine.
Now, remind me, how much time do they have to finish their project?
February 1st of next year. So we
Next
are
year.
giving them 12 months to use the funding. And I know of 3 projects that have already started. So Cleaning Ideas, Rogues Gains, which used to be Creations, or right there on, I think it's technically Broadway at that point. So Main Street turns to Broadway, turns to Memorial, turns to 27. they just finished. And then I've seen across the street, Bill Rector, he's been working on his buildings. He also received grant funding to redo some of the structural stuff that he needed, repainting stuff like that on his building. So we're seeing changes, and we're seeing that these buildings are looking a lot better. I know that coming July 4th this next year, definitely a lot of eyes will be on our community, and putting our best foot forward is really important on so many levels, and so many different working groups are on letting us shine the best way that we can whenever the media comes back.
Can I ask, if we wanted to increase the grant amount that we have put forward, ours is merely a recommendation to city council, correct? And they approve the increased grant? We're gonna take up later in the agenda some items that are gonna be, costly. But I for one would like to see us give, a little bit more out to get this ball rolling. Maybe another $30,000 for parking lot requests to coincide with the $50,000 that has already been allotted, and let's discuss that and see if we can make a recommendation to the city council to increase by $30,000.
Um,
Yeah, can I say?
yes.
If we were to add another 50 to the 50 that you've already done, could that 50 go toward the applicants that have already put their applications in?
Yes, and that can be a directive from this board to not necessarily go back out and open up the exterior enhancement grant application again, but to go back through and look at some of the applicants that were denied, because it was a very tough conversation. I think we were there for at least 2 hours going through these 42 responses. And it's the first 30 minutes was where do we even start? And then once we kind of got the ball rolling, we were able to move pretty quickly. So yes, we can go back and look at those applicants.
No, that's a good idea.
Would
Yeah.
you think that the 50 would be ample, or do you think it would really, depending on the other request, would it need to be a little bit more?
I think however much money you put into this, we could easily find recipients to give the money to, whatever whatever that amount is.
Are we talking about using that increased amount, that additional amount just for parking lots?
That's what I was
right?
going to ask. What,
I'd love to see the parking lot go through, but I would like to see additional money go back into the original request.
But will you correct me? Didn't you say when we were going through it that you had multiple people say, I didn't even know about it?
There were a couple of calls that I got after it had closed.
Okay.
I probably got about 3 or 4 calls
Okay.
afterwards.
Because I want to applaud you. I think the number of responses is excellent. So, but to what you're saying is there's probably more that would apply, but they just didn't know, forgot what have you.
I like the idea of how people are responding so quickly that they're taking action, they're doing these things now, and the more we could allow them to
Yeah.
have that opportunity sooner, the better, than having to go back out for applications again. Because you already have the applications, but that's just what I'm thinking.
And we
And you can go back and ask for more applications and another grant later.
and the purpose of this grant is to be is to continue every year. I know that this board had suggested 50,000, and then investing another 50,000, or keeping at least 50,000 in that account each year, to be able to give out to exterior enhancements. So this is not our only shot, but given the response, I think for this first year, looking at putting more funds would be greatly appreciated to the business owners.
So if you were to make this into the form of a motion, would you move to increase by $50,000 for you know, more projects being accepted, as well as $30,000 for parking? Or would it be $50,000 with $30,000 being for parking and 20 being for other projects?
We'll take the 50 for the existing applicants, so they could award more applicants.
Did you say
And
15 or
50.
50? 50.
50
Okay.
for, just go ahead and double what we've already done because they have the applicants there. And it seems like they have qualified people to accept that and get started on improvements. And then the 30 toward the parking lot.
I'm following.
So a total of 80.
Yeah.
Andrew, you sat on the committee. What are your feelings there?
I feel like what Kelly said was on point with, I think whatever we decide to put out there as far as funding should be gobbled up. I think there's demand for it. So even with the 42 applicants, we still had people that were saying they didn't get their application in for one reason or another. The demand is there. Appetite's there. So
Is 30 enough to do, to make a dent in parking, would be my question.
It 30,000 could definitely make a dent in parking. Now, the stipulation of it being open to the public and all of those things, that might be a little bit difficult, because let's take Wilson's for instance. So if we decide to give Wilson's, a $5,000 to help resurface, well, so now Wilson's has to allow people going to another business to, I'm just looking at from the business owner's perspective. That might be a little bit more of a hurdle, but I completely understand it's Tirz public dollars and needs to be for public access. So, but I think our legal team can draw it up however you see fit.
the biggest issue would be, as a business owner, the general liability of other people, walking on your property. That's the main concern, I would think, is.
When they slip and fall on your
Right,
property and they
is-
sue you.
Site, right. So, I don't know how to incentivize that or put an asterisk next to it without stepping over that line. So I think the idea is great to say, listen, if we're gonna use taxpayer money to support these projects, maybe we can, have some kind of strings attached to it like that, that would benefit the overall public as a whole, but I don't know how we do that without, infringing on some of the businesses.
Maybe private
Yeah,
property.
issues like that.
Michael, you have some words of wisdom for us here?
Well, so I've been through this with an enhancement grant in a previous city, and it was all just under one because it's a visual improvement, right, to your area, whether it's the facade of the building, whether it's the parking lot, whatever categories you have fit in there. So it may simplify things for you just to keep it all as one grant. That's y'all's purview. It might simplify things for Kelly and people who are going through it. If you just continue to have we have this much funding and what is the priority? But in terms of the parking, it's kind of like the building painting, right? So if they're painting the building, that's an improvement on the property. If it's a multi-unit complex and it's the business owner that is improving the parking, I think you could probably put some stipulations in there where it's like you can't have a ton of restrictions to say that this is only a, lemon cleaners parking only kind of deal, where it's parking in that shopping center that's open to whomever. I think you'd have a hard time restricting it to putting further restrictions onto that, and then not sure what the HOA or POA covenants have within, if it's a condo complex and they have, 15 of these spaces are for us, you guys have spaces within yours that are for ORMs. And so that's just a little piece of that I was thinking about. But the other part was, so Jacob earlier spoke about, about 317,000 estimated for this year. If you do another 50 and another 30, you're looking at it's about half of what you have coming in this year. It's an extraordinary circumstance this year. I would, and Kelly's going to get into it in the next presentation. Kind of here's the breakdown as everybody saw it initially when the Tirz was created. 10% for this, 10% for this. That's not it. Doesn't have to stay that way. It can be amended. But if you're going to do an annual allocation, $100,000, let's say, that would be a third of all the funds that you have for the Tirz. So it as it increases, it rapidly becomes more of a percentage of the funding, and those are just, I think, some of the things to consider. Now, if it's you don't have to do it all the time either, right? If the Tirz is beautified, that should last a long time. A parking lot should last a long time, right? The new painting on the building should last a long time. I think you can get a lot done in a short amount of time, but I would caution against just an annual allocation that's sort of more than you want to chew off, or a consideration of what is the purpose of the Tirz, right? I love that you guys are talking about more money though, because in Live Oak we spent $125,000 every year. I mean, would happen every year, and people would use it, and it worked. You ended up with Spirit Liquor was the one I can remember. The S went out, and they needed money to fix the S, and they were like just dragging their feet, and we were like, what if we pay for half of it? And then all of a sudden the S was there, and it's a terrible example, but once one thing starts to fade, it's a lot easier for other things to start to fade, and so it's a cascading effect. So just kudos to y'all for considering funding anything, and it really is
Well,
gonna be a
Michael,
good program.
in Live Oak, you were a big entity there. What was your experience with parking? Was that something that they included?
It was. I can remember it was a Papa John's, and the Papa John's parking lot was patchwork after patchwork after patch. Just looked like just slabbed on asphalt, and it was horrible looking, and potholes everywhere. And then, overnight there was a new course of asphalt and bright lines for the parking spaces, and it looked significantly better, right? And I think that's the purpose, right? Is to keep that curb appeal. I think your neighbors want to also then have that because they don't want their property to look a little rougher. We were also a community that was under 20,000 in population, so the EDC could pay for it. So we had a different pot of money, and an IKEA. So they had dump trucks full of money because that was just a sales tax producing entity like nobody's business. But yeah, the parking was included in that. Lighting, painting, almost anything that was exterior was considered. A lot of it went to signage, but parking lots were included in there. Yeah, downtown's a little different because downtown's kind of our parking for the most part. It's the city's parking. I mean, on the street, but the parking lots. I mean, it makes a difference when somebody pulls in and they don't have to look out for potholes. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Okay, thank you. How many requests for parking did you say you had?
We had 7 requests for parking.
Would 30,000 take care of that? Do you think
Yes.
it would? Okay, your thoughts, everybody?
We won't be able to make a motion in this item, but we can whenever I come back with the larger project list.
Okay, okay.
And would we do the same mechanics for up to 5,000, capped at 5,000 per project for the parking lot? Same?
That's for y'all.
No.
I mean, that would be up to us
Yes.
as to
Do you
what
all
we
like
want to
that idea?
propose.
Yes, I agree.
What was your question? it would, oh, he,
Just making sure that's what we wanted to do.
yeah.
And I just said, it seemed to be very effective that people were willing to spend the rest, so.
Well, thoughts, everybody? Would you want to go ahead with 30,000? Would you want to go ahead with 50? Do you want to do just one or the other? Need to
Since-
have you talk out loud here.
Since we have not had allocations prior to this year, and this is the 50 year of the Tirz existence, right? Were we in year 5
Well,
of?
18.
Year six.
Oh,
technically.
seventh
Yeah,
year.
Yeah, it's technically started like end of 18, really in 19.
So, since this is the first year, if we went over our annual, income, expected income, and took care of a lot of projects to begin with, the community will see what this is doing. So if we did 50 more and then 30 for paving, we'll send a message to the community that this Tirz is in business to make the community better and last longer, be more resilient, and, we see the future. And so I think, next year, with whatever the income from, is new income that comes into the TIF, we can rein back just a little bit. But if we went 50 more and 30, I think we're doing the right thing.
What do you guys think?
I agree, and I think, okay, so we do 80 this year, and then maybe only commit to doing the 50 for the facade grant next year. So like what Michael said, we don't overcommit to keeping it up every year. Maybe we just commit to doing 50 if we like that annual commitment, the 30 on top of the 50 this year, or if we double, whatever we do, it's just the additional money this year outside of 50 is just a one-off.
Ladies?
Well, I think that sounds like a good start, and you don't have to offer it every year.
Exactly.
As
There's
the
no,
city improves, so we don't have to create an expectation. It's just, this was so successful, we want to offer this opportunity again for those who missed out, or those who weren't able to, we weren't able to accommodate. I'm sure there was some very, worthy people that, projects. I think it's a great idea.
Crystal?
I like the parking lot one. Just again, we saw a lot of it. It is like a beautification also. It would be interesting, and I don't know how measurable it is, but for businesses, so like your restaurants, bars, stores, if they're able to see an increase in traffic because their parking lot is better. Because if you have to drive through potholes, how many people are going to say, okay, I'll just go somewhere else? So if they see a measurable increase in visitors, I think that would be interesting to show the success of it besides just applicants.
And didn't Michael, didn't you say that you guys said your project was all inclusive? It was, you didn't have a separate parking lot, permitted project, but it was just all inclusive.
It was, and then selection committee just kind of based it on, here's the criteria, and typically we had funding for enough projects. It's a smaller, it was, typically we had enough funding to cover just about everything. Projects were denied simply because they were out of bounds from the project scope, what was allowed. But yeah, you run it as a one project. But that's up to y'all. That the recommendation could be that, here's money set aside for this purpose, and here's money set aside for this purpose. You can, it's however you want to do it.
That'd be easier for you. just knowing that you have the pot of money and the 30,000 is
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
Parking
makes,
lot.
makes sense that you don't have to recreate another, you know, whole entity for the sidewalks alone,
yes.
but make it inclusive and just make the decisions within the committee, how to separate it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, we have it.
Let me be clear, what we're talking is an additional 50 plus an additional 30.
No,
No, we're just talking an additional 30.
that's what I thought.
Is that what you intended?
I'd like to go for the whole thing.
Yeah, me
Because,
too.
because they have people that want us to do it, and you can see the returns you're gonna get. I think it's gonna increase a lot of people to wanna jump on the wagon, and I think it's gonna, the returns that the city's getting is huge. So I think that I would rather see the 50 and the 30 combined, and then they'll have the money for the parking and for the other improvements. But, would this, also have a question, would it help you with the grant that you're applying for to show that the city is so involved? And that they're, you know, that Tirz is, really, you know, behind, you know, really putting the money to use?
You're talking about the community block grant? Yeah. Yes, that is something that they will ask about, like the commitment from Tirz, which we'll discuss further. And then also very much so documentation, so referencing back to our comp plan. Those are the top things for phase one that they'll be looking into is what type of documentation do you already have where your community and your entity, being the city, has already committed to enhancements for this. This one will be specifically mobility and transportation for that particular grant.
You already have $1.9 million committed to the community, right? I mean, just from this alone?
Yes.
Um, if we did this and then we opened up an application process for next year, for an additional 50, that would really give you some beef to put into your application process. You would be
Definitely.
able to show, you know, that you have already this many dollars with applications, but also your committee is so interested in keeping that improvement going, even though through the devastation we've had in the last year. I think that would show a lot of it. I think that would give you a lot to go with.
Completely agree.
I agree with Clint too, that I think the additional 80 would be great. And to your point about sending a message to the community, if nothing else, I think that would be impactful and powerful. And I think that this is a good chance and an opportunity to do that.
Well, at the end of the day, when the TERS time limit is up in what, 2049? Is that is it 2049 is our final year?
49? Okay.
Something like that.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, though, we don't want a bunch of money left over. The whole purpose of this is to spend money in our community to start the economic engine turning.
Mhm.
And the more we put in it this first year, we're going to have a bigger impact each year hereafter.
And then we will talk more about, I'm going to break it down into your projects and kind of divvying that out to the different categories that we had too. But we'll go back to this and formal motions for that 80,000 and how y'all want to see that whenever we talk about the projects. Do y'all have anything else right now on this?
So I just want to make sure, are you guys good with a total of another 80? You're,
Yes.
everybody good? Okay. Okay,
Does this require a motion?
Well.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask
Yeah.
one question?
Yes.
Would because we had sidewalks in there, right? Would the
Yes, ma'am.
sidewalks be part of?
We had, actually, I would have to look. I believe we had taken out sidewalks because there was the concern about what the sidewalks would actually look like
Okay.
and kind of piecemealing sidewalks, which is another project that we will talk about specifically for Water Street.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on. Thank you all for that discussion.
Laura's not here, but I think between Michael and I, we can walk you through kind of what her thoughts were for 5A.
So the Tirz board can meet whenever it wants. The first 2 years it was here, it met in January and August, or in January and September, in those first 2 years, and there wasn't a whole lot of things to discuss, and so there is no specific time frame. I would say you have to meet at least annually to approve your budgets. Beyond that, the schedule and the time frame is y'all's purview. I would ask that you be gentle with us. It's one of many boards. We're all very busy, so I don't want us to have meetings just to have meetings. We have a lot of staff that dedicates time for this, for the board meeting. Happy to do it, but just, do whatever you want.
Well, and I have to agree. I think that it's good to know when we're going to meet. And I hate to have a meeting set and then you say, we don't have anything and cancel it. I mean, it's okay to do that, but it's really not okay to do that. So I think we just need to, do we need to go to 2 months, every 2 months? What some of your thoughts for you guys?
Every third week of the month would be great. We met in January, correct?
We met in January.
And here we are in March, and there's
Next one would be June.
I think every other month would be, if that's not too busy for staff.
No, not, if every month, if all the boards decided they wanted to go to every month, and all of a sudden, because a lot of times it is busy work. We're just here giving reports. Even EIC right now, I just present reports. And it's good information to get out to the public, but some of the boards are adamant about meeting once a month, and my question is always, well, what's the purpose? But y'all have work that you're actively doing, so no. And we would handle once every month. I'm saying all this in jest. We will be here whenever you need us to be here. But once every 2 months is certainly.
Is her
certainly doable.
concern that we need to meet more or less?
More.
More,
Yes, meet
okay,
more.
okay.
Kelly,
Be
give
more
us your
effective
thoughts.
and get things
I was-
accomplished, right, to make
I
more
do
decisions.
feel like, I do feel that this is one of the first times that Tirz actually has some projects and some movement. Every month might be a little much, but every other month, I feel, at least for the time being, you, Miss Judy, can determine how often we meet, and then we can just have special sessions in between if needed. So if we come up with something and then we say, okay, we need to meet on just this one particular item for next month so that we can talk about it, so that we can get to council, because it's also the whole council thing too, and getting everything in council to get it approved. So it kind of adds to our timeline. So I do feel every other month could be beneficial until we start to see a slowdown.
And we can always change it if we need to at a
Yes.
later date, right?
Yes,
I mean, we're not stuck.
Because we did
forever.
look into it. Y'all don't necessarily have bylaws, so it is up to the discretion of the board.
Personally, I think every 2 months is great.
Okay.
Because I feel like
2 months.
sometimes you spin your
Every other
wheels a
month.
lot if it's,
Every other month?
Every other month, you mean?
Yeah.
yeah, every other month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's a great plan.
Every other
because
month.
Every other month?
otherwise we're spinning our wheels just trying to get things done, and there's some fun things to do.
Plus, as she said, that we can call a special session if necessary. All we
we
need
have
to do is
to,
post
right.
it properly, and we're
Correct.
fine.
Mhm.
If something comes up, so yeah,
Okay, do we have a motion?
so moved.
Second?
I-
Okay, and this is to meet every other month,
Every other month.
on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock. Is that time still good for everybody?
We'll make it good at this point.
Did Laura Four actually recommend a time that works for her? Because she's not here at 3 o'clock today. Maybe
I
that's
don't,
why.
Kelly, did Laura give she didn't give me a time.
No, she did not tell me a time or anything. She
Yeah.
just said that she wanted. Sorry, Keisha, did you have something to add?
I was just gonna say she was pulled away today, and
Oh, okay.
apologies.
So
Okay.
then I guess my question is, do we want to start every other, so this being March, then we can decide, do we want to do, just come back in May, or do we feel that we need to have one? I guess at the end of today, we can decide if we need to call another special one for April.
That's,
That, yeah.
would be okay.
You go May, and then July, and then so forth, every other month, on a Wednesday, at 3 PM.
And so
Okay.
it would be on that, what is today? Today is the second Wednesday of the month. And then you were saying we have to meet.
We have to have a meeting in August because of budget.
So that could just be, okay, so we will need to also meet in August for budget purposes too.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, all right, we have a motion on the floor. So let's go ahead and vote on that. And then if we need a special, we'll insert that. So we could do that for, well, August would
I have a
work. We're already
May.
I have
down
a
to,
recommendation, though. What if we meet in April, this once, next month in April, because there's so many projects, and we're talking about this other, adding people to the group, for the permitting. If we meet in April, then we'd meet in June and August, or we'd meet in, April, oh, no, I'm wrong, June. July and August are.
But we may not need to meet in April. We don't know until we get to the end. So if we call it every other month, starting, the next one in May and two after that, if we have to have one in April, we'll know, and that'll be a special session, so.
Okay,
okay.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of meeting every other month, beginning in May, at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays.
So the next one would be Wednesday, May 13th.
Okay?
Is that the
All in
second
favor?
Wednesday of the month?
Pardon?
Second Wednesday of the month?
Oh. Okay, we should have that in there, you're right. Okay, the second Wednesday of every month, can we put that
Yes,
as part of your?
yes,
Okay, who seconded that?
Clint.
Clint did? Okay, so you're okay with adding that? Okay. So our motion is to meet every other month, the second Wednesday of every other month, let's get that right there, at 3 o'clock.
Plus August, yeah. And we'll put that into our notes that we'll
Okay.
have a special
All right,
session.
all in favor? We need a show of hands here. Okay, all right. It passes, and so our next meeting is May 13 at 3 o'clock. Unless something changes, and we'll see. Okay, all right. And we'll get those dates sent out to everybody, so you'll have them. Okay, okay, that takes care of 5. All right, 6. Kelly, you're still on?
I'm still here.
You're still here. That's
still
good.
here. Thank you, Martin. Okay, so from our last meeting, we discussed a laundry list of potential projects to start looking into. So I compiled those, broke them out into categories, and tried my best to get estimates at this point. So still a lot of work to be done, but we have a really good starting point. So once again, just kind of going over the purpose and the goals, working with infrastructure, streets, water, sewage, parks, open spaces, and then grants. So looking at your balance as of right now, at that estimated roughly 1 million available. Looking back at the way that it is broken out at those 10s, the 15, 18, and then the 25% for grants. So just keeping this kind of in mind, and we can reference back to this again. So starting with transit category. So we have the river trail going from G Street to the library. That was in the works before the flood. We were working on getting all of the easements that we needed. We will have to kind of go back and renew some of those easements. They did time out, but this is a project that staff has been working on, and just that $4 million, I think right now is the biggest hindrance to that being able to move forward. Jefferson Street, we have received some concerns from businesses that are on Jefferson Street as that starts to develop, and how quickly people really need to get to HEB apparently. And so we have talked with Public Works about stop signs, where the best places are for those stop signs. We've looked at doing a little bit more streetscaping to naturally slow people down. So it's such a wide street, you feel you can go faster. Once it's narrower, you naturally slow down. So we looked at options from the comp plan that show parking in the center and then widening the sidewalks. So people, instead of parking in front of the businesses, you would park in the center lots and in the center of the street. And then this could also be extended with a little bit more beautification, whether it's nice lighting. We can try to incorporate some things with the CAP program, maybe put some art in the middle of it and make it look a little bit nicer, put some plants in there. And if this is a direction with anything, we can go into renderings and all the different options that we can look into. A trolley system, I did have a conversation with one person, with one company in Fredericksburg, and they were supposed to meet me this week. They ended up canceling. I wanted them to see kind of what our afternoon traffic looked like, because that's especially lunchtime and people trying to find parking spots. I know especially on Earl Garrett, it fills up very quickly at lunchtime. Clint knows, of course, his parking lot is very full at lunch. And what a trolley service would look like. But they're looking at how many people would be using it, what's their route, is it just during the week or the weekends? They had a long list of things for us to consider. So while it may not be something that will happen in the immediate future, it is something to start considering and looking at for long term. Parking garage. There have been multiple things that have enhancements that have happened with the parking garage, security cameras, the lighting, some beautification and some painting. Right now, the biggest concern that we hear about is people not realizing that we have a parking garage or how to enter the parking garage. So we have discussed moving where the parking marquees are so that they're a little bit more visible. Right now they're hidden behind some trees, or you have to be already on Clay Street. So whenever you're on Sidney Baker, you don't really see a parking sign. So we've had some of those discussions. We're still looking at what that estimate would be to move those to better visibility. Downtown sidewalks, this is a larger project which would include the brick removal and then the whole, what do we do with the bricks? Right now we have some bricks that had to be removed for safety concerns, and they're sitting in one of our city yards, and we have a list of those. But looking at downtown, and especially Earl Garrett, whenever we look at the comprehensive plan, there have been some talks about shutting down Earl Garrett a little bit more often, making it more pedestrian friendly, potentially making some streets one way, widening the sidewalk over there on the west side. So where the majority of the businesses are, where Rita's, Francisco's, Divines are, that's actually the smaller sidewalk. So if we bump that out, but then took away some parking, what does that look like? How upset will some community members be? What are alternatives that we might have for them? You know, maybe that parking garage with 427 free parking spots might work. But so these are all conversations that we're having, and we don't quite have a number for that one yet.
Can you get a good ballpark number for that, Kelly? Is it possible
go,
without
Michael.
being very, very specific?
So the comparing the Jefferson Street discussion we were talking about internally with staff and the downtown sidewalks. What we're talking about at Jefferson is not changing really anything, right? Move the striping from the sides of the roads to the center, putting sidewalk actually in between the cars so you're walking in the middle right there. The benefit to doing that is that you don't have to do a whole lot of reconstruction, because once you do the reconstruction on the sidewalks, now you also have to reconstruct your drainage. And the drainage is where your problem comes. And that's where your cost escalation comes. So when we talk about Water Street sidewalk project, where we would do a widening kind of as far as we could imagine, it would also involve a huge amount of drainage work. And that's where the cost escalate. We'll get you some numbers, but they'll be a pretty broad range, you know. But
If you would, please. I
Yeah,
think that would be good.
Yeah.
And this project, just like some of the other projects, obviously their cost is way over what the Tirz can contribute. But as Michael just mentioned, the drainage study. So maybe that's something that we say, okay, we want to move forward, but we need to do this drainage study. So the Tirz says, oh, we have that much money to help with the drainage study, and we can take that out of our stormwater allotment. So we can have those conversations as those come up. Then open spaces, we have the boardwalk, which ideally would go from Dallas Daughtry Pavilion to the library, but as Mr. Peterson and I talked about, the renderings are very pretty, but what is the practicality of it looking exactly like that? So those are larger discussions as a whole of, obviously Tirz does not have $15 million. But what does that look like? What is the most feasible way for it to be? Is it flush with all the businesses? Is it offset? And then you just have some inlets where you can get in to that boardwalk. How far does it actually go? Is it able to make it across Sidney Baker? Does it have a break in it? So as we work through the boardwalk, we might be coming to the Tirz saying, just like the drainage, like we need extra funding to do this sort of study, or to add some sort of fixture or something to it that connects the Tirz to the boardwalk. Downtown Wi-Fi, the city had looked into this back in 2022. Charvy gave me the breakdown. It's in one of these pieces of paper. So based off of 22 numbers, so we would need to add to this. The build out was going to be $75,000. The booster, so to Louise Hayes Park and Tranquility Island, was another $125,000. So that was just installation. We're at $200,000, and then the annual operating cost was at about $24,000 a year. So an annual operating cost now would be probably $25,000 to $30,000 a year. So something for Tirz to think about. If the city or if another entity, EIC or something, can front the money for the installation, then is that something Tirz wants to consider as within their annual allotments. Public restrooms, I did not have time to go to the public restrooms to go see, but from what I've heard, it's mostly upgrades, flooring, fixtures, stuff like that. So we can get a better estimate for that next time. Treescaping, we discussed installing new trees, replacing trees, and the tree wells. Depending on which department you talk to, they are either excited or hesitant about trees going on, in, or around streets and sidewalks, just because obviously, as they grow and give us shade, they cause issues with breaking sidewalks.
They hate it.
But other places, other towns where I've looked at, they don't. They're, what do they do that we don't do?
They're just weaker people. They don't say no. No, it depends on the tree that you get, right? Because so from our standpoint, we invest $1 million in a mile of street, let's say, and then we plant trees whose roots upend the sidewalk and upend the street that you spent all that money on, and that creates a problem. So it can't be a free for all on the type of trees. It has to be very specific trees that have narrow root structures or limited root structures, and if you had quite a bit of green space. So I went to high school in Sugar Land, Texas, and when I grew up, there were tiny little trees all along the road. Now that go back 40 years later, it covers the entire street, and it's fantastically beautiful, right? I also now look at the side of the road, and I'm like, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. So I think we just have to be intentional about the types of trees that we would plant.
Can you get me a list of those trees?
Yeah, we just approved yes, we can. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But some of it's based off of our soil or lack thereof as well.
There's a lot of, so we have a limited, so you already have a limited set of trees because what's going to grow out here. And then you're further refine that by, okay, what do you want growing next to a street? And also, how close is it to the actual street? So most everything downtown, trees that we've had to take out have been 2 feet away from the curb. And the canopy, the root systems are as wide as the canopy. That's how trees generally are. And so when they hang over the streets, you can have an expectation that those root systems are going to be pushing out. And so, it's directives from council that we follow, so we'll do it. We do it grumblingly sometimes, but that's okay. We have moved curbs to go around trees, and we continue to do that. We just offer our own guidance, from the streets department. They're just headaches they don't want to have, but that's okay as well.
I had an arborist come out and do a study on the trees, and he, because I wanted to see like what were some options in the front of our buildings, and was noticing all of the vacancies, and he did report back to me, and I'll share that report that he gave to me, but that these trees do really have a limited lifespan, that the ones we have, and so it was his opinion that they're not going to be there very long.
Planting the right trees, and there's a bunch of people to help us with it too. The Parks and Wildlife folks, the Forestry Service folks they came out and took a look at the tree that's adjacent to the HHHC Museum, and gave us their recommendations. The trees are entirely surrounded by concrete. That's another part of it, right? So they have to be able to grow on their own a little bit more, and we'll make it work.
Would there be grants from Texas Parks and Wildlife for something? Do they do grants for trees?
There's grants everywhere,
Okay.
right?
Just have to find it.
I think CDBG. We had the CDBG grant that we had for the new intersection at Earl Garrett and Water, and the crosswalk at Clay and Water. Also had provisions in it for trees downtown. And then the cost escalation, just, we had to start removing things from that project because it took CDBG 2 years to actually give us the funding. And so by that point, we could only afford the street light or the intersection lights and then the crosswalk. But CDBG has funds for that. There's going to be downtown programs that will have funds available. We're working with tons of organizations who are giving us trees left, right, and center right now. Trees for Texas is going to plant 27 trees, I think, sometime in the next few months. And then plans for hundreds more after that. So they're grants. So.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Okay, Kelly?
And then redoing the sidewalk specifically on Water Street, either side, that's 1.65 miles of sidewalk. We're estimating about $5 million for that. There will be a drainage study required. So that is something potentially that maybe Tirz, could help out with. Or just because the potential investment right now is about $100,000. So I took those potential investments back from where we are with about $1 million in the budget at the moment, and then broke that out by the percentage. And then we get into the various grants. We already have the exterior enhancement grant, if we would like to add a parking lot grant. The upper floor activation, Andrew came last time with a great overview of some other grant projects that other cities have done. And the upper floor activation is one that has come up multiple times with some of the businesses downtown and what they can do just because of codes that are required, and just trying to make that more than what most people are using their upstairs for. So we can add a grant for that. The tenant improvement, where you could fund a tenant needs to, you go into a space and now you need to retrofit it to whatever you need it to be like. Is that a grant that y'all would like to help out with? So people can retrofit their areas better. The pre-development and due diligence. So this would be, if you need engineering, plating, anything that would be kind of pre to the tenant improvement, whatever those costs might be. Public spaces is a little bit more complicated just because not as many of these businesses have, quote unquote, a public space. Most of the public spaces would be something that Tirz wouldn't need to give a grant for, but y'all could just set money aside to beautify a certain public space area. Alleyway activation, this is something that is discussed in the comprehensive plan about being able to have some 2 dual entries for pedestrians, making it a little bit more pedestrian friendly. I know, especially at alleyway activation, I know Sue and I have discussed the alleyway that takes you from that back parking lot behind Turtle Creek and all of those other businesses to Earl Garrett. Are there options to make that look a little bit nicer, or even like that back alleyway, so that if people did park in that parking lot back there, does it just a beautification, a different way to do an exterior enhancement grant that is more specified to these areas. And then utility make ready. So whether it is that, you need electrical outlets somewhere, more of a public space, or any other type of utility need that might be within this area. Some of these things don't necessarily need to be a grant per se, because it may not be going out to a business, but these are all things that Tirz can discuss to put money toward if there's a specific problem area. So with that, I think, so now is your time to make suggestions, comments, and formal motions that y'all would like for us to look into. And I did print it out. I know that's kind of hard for me because I'm going to be going back and forth. So I did print out that this PowerPoint, so you should have it in one of the hundreds of pieces of papers that we just gave you. It will be the one that starts with Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone, March 11th. And then you can kind of better see.
Okay, so it's exactly what we're seeing in front of us.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
It just makes it easier as I try to
this.
hop from slide
Here.
to slide.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
No.
Yes. It should be the second page. Should look like this. No, that's not it. Here,
Do you need one?
I think we've got it.
Oh, there it is.
It's here, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta have somebody take care of me or I can't do a thing.
Okay, are you ready today, or do you need time to absorb this? And maybe come back at our next meeting with some of the ideas or additional questions. This is a lot. It's wonderful. Thank you. Are we ready today to make some decisions?
Can I ask, what does prioritize mean?
Prioritize, well, for me, it would be we pick a couple projects. Kelly, do you have anything else in mind that you would want from us?
No, that I wanted to just lay out all the various projects that had been discussed with the board, to put them into categories, since that's what the ordinance requires, is that it can only be a certain, it can meet that percentage over the lifetime of the Tirz. So that's where I had broken it out to where we are today. This is the max that you can put into that. Let Julie clarify more.
Yeah, so the breakout that we talked about during the overview in January about percentage, that's with the assumption that the life of your Tirz would generate the amount of revenue that was in the original project and financing plan. So regardless of what it generates, at the end of the Tirz, when it closes, we cannot have distributed, per the current ordinance, funds outside of the parameters of those percentages. So economic development grants, for example, can't exceed 25% of the total revenue. Bless you. So that's just for a breakout, just to give you some context. So not necessarily year to year, because if you, for example, were to increase the exterior enhancement grant, then you would obviously be exceeding 25% of your annual revenues. But it's per the life of the Tirz, which we just have to track that very closely. Jacob provides a report to the comptroller every year, and it's divided by category, so we can see how monies were spent, whether it was economic development or grants or infrastructure, those kind of things. Does that help?
The only clarification I will add to that is that it's per the current ordinance. The ordinance can
Correct.
be changed.
The ordinance can be amended.
It can be
So
amended.
the structure of the Tirz can be amended through an ordinance
so-
process, just like we did when we set it up. So if the direction changed, or, you know, the wishes changed, the priorities of the board changed, and that agreed with council priorities, well, then it could be amended.
Well, let me give you a for instance. For instance, the project that Clint and I support costs $15 million, and a Tirz is not going to ever come up with the money to pay for that project. But
Right.
there are some incremental startups necessary, like a conceptual plan, to ask questions. How deep do we have to dig pilings in order to hold a structure that will hold 2,000 people? All of these kind of questions can be answered, and we could ask for uh, a conceptual study that answers some of the basic questions of can we really do this? It's a pretty picture that's in the 2050 plan, and the whole idea you can go out there and look at it, and it's a great idea. But can it really be done? Becomes the next question. And Tirz, I think, could pay for a study to answer a few of those basic questions. Am I wrong? I mean, I'm new at
No,
this,
and
so I don't know.
I'll use a term Michael used one time, if you, how do you want to spend your money? So if you're going to spend your design money, for example, on doing something like that, is the project ever going to come to fruition? So I think those are conversations to have with Michael and his team to see, does that fit, how does it fit into the city's overall scope? Because obviously funding would have to come from somewhere other than
Right,
you.
right,
And also remember that you cannot commit future funds.
right,
So you can only commit what you have
correct.
in cash.
But one of the, I'm always going to say it, Mayor Eichner posed the question of give us a cost swag at what it would be. And one of the things that we typically, because we have dozens, if not hundreds of those throughout the city, we'll have to talk to our engineers and say, okay, give me a really rough estimate. That usually has a price tag attached to it. Sometimes they're nice to us and they go, okay, here, it's this. Usually they go, yeah, that's $5,000 to $8,000 for me to give you that, right? And then once they get to the full engineering, they go, okay, that's going to be $135,000 to $500,000 to do the actual design of the project. And so it helps a lot if there's projects within the Tirz that we really want to get really wrap our heads around, because we have engineers on staff, but I have worn out their capacity and then some at this point. And so we use consulting engineers for a lot of that.
Sure.
And so at this right now, actually, so you love this, we have Freeze Nichols on retainer with us to help out with some of our projects, and we asked them to give us a swag at the boardwalk. So it's already being done.
Okay,
that
good.
one.
That's
But in the general terms of what you're talking about,
uh-huh.
we certainly need funds to help us sort of dissect what better opinions of probable cost are going to be on a lot of these projects.
It would make it so much easier to raise the necessary funding for something like that if there was some factual basis that it could actually work, that it could begin. And I think the nature of that project is such that,
It's my favorite project.
yeah,
I want it so bad.
yeah, me too.
I think it's the coolest thing. And all the people I've known who've lived here their whole lives that tell me that the river is a inactivated part of the downtown, and it's a shame. And I think everybody feels the same sentiment, where it would be wonderful to look in your backyard of downtown and, like Arcadia, do that all the way throughout downtown. It's just a steep hill and a lot of dollars.
Okay, so what is the,
I'll just, I'll start.
okay,
I really liked the idea of the Jefferson Street thing, just as a shopper at that HEB trying to exit off of Jefferson. You're kind of putting your
life in your
Yeah,
hands.
life in your
yeah, you're like, do I go? Do I not go? Then when you start going, then a car comes
It
and
won't quite go down that far, but we have talked about it going from basically where the plant house is all the way down to the crosswalk where where that HEB employee crosswalk
okay,
is.
can we
just
make
to
it go a little bit
naturally-
further?
just because the parking is on that side, and we weren't too sure if we messed with HEB parking. Because some people do park on the street right there. But I know what you mean. And everyone parks in that one sliver that you're never supposed to park
Yes,
in, that's
yeah.
striped, and you can never see around them.
Yes.
I agree with you.
And then I love the idea of the trolley service. with our city growing, that it won't be tomorrow or a year, but I like that idea. And then
Me and Kim will drive it.
So I say, I love the trolley idea as well. And
and the upper floor, all the 200, there's not a title for it. The last two slides, I think all of those are great for all of our businesses.
The alleyway,
The exterior enhancement, parking lot, upper floor, tenant improvement, pre-development, public spaces, alleyway, utility. I think all of those are just,
so you'd put all of those in on your list,
absolutely.
okay?
And as far as the parking garage goes, I think something we could do almost immediately is, Michael, what are those banners that the city has that go across the street? They're, you can see right through them, but there's been banners for every activity under the planet here in Kerrville. There could be a banner right as you're going down 16, before you get to the tower, before you get to the parking garage, maybe a block or two before, saying, next right entrance to free parking. And if you made a sign like that and just left it up year round, people would all of a sudden go, I always look at those signs when I go up and down 16. Do you know what I'm?
Oh, and 100%. I'm very mad that we haven't thought about it already. You're so smart. I like
You
that.
know,
We could do it right. We could actually do it even underneath the,
Underneath the bridge.
Yeah.
and just to say to the right.
Right, parking. And then.
My guys are all fired.
It
Well
says,
done.
The tiny board.
On the Antler Stadium. Yeah. I mean, if we put them all up for a lottery, and it's kind of the system that we use, but we never do that underneath the crosswalk.
I think that would be a really easy way to direct people to the garage. Still move those things, but I mean, that is like, I don't know how long it takes to make those signs.
No, that's an easy button for sure. Man, why didn't y'all think of that?
That's why we have
That's
this
way too
board.
good an idea.
This is the value.
Way too good an idea.
That's a really, really good idea.
Way to go. That's just too good.
I told her she's hired, so
This
there you
is
go.
so awesome. Yeah. Yes,
Good
ma'am.
idea.
Yeah, we can figure that. Yes, we'll start working on that.
All right, good, thank you, Sue. All right, Jack, do you have some preferences today?
I'm kind of very selfish-minded. I like the boardwalk.
Boardwalk, okay?
Just because of the magnificence that it would present to the image of the city, to what we see the river for, how we enhance the river, how we enhance the businesses along the river, the long-term benefits of that, the events that could take place. I don't know how many of you attended the grand opening of Clint Orm's shop, but the use of that parking lot, spread that out on top of the river and spread it down to the Arcadia, and you got something there. Something worth coming to town for.
And that's one and only?
Oh, I like the rest of them all.
But for right now.
One, and then the rest two.
And the rest, okay, all right.
Well, it's a concept that kind of fits with the whole 1950s. Was it in the 50s that they had people, water skiing in bikinis?
Correct.
Up and down the river? I mean, it attracted tons of people. It's kind of the same mental concept, is you're
Beautiful.
over the river, looking at this beautiful place
Beautifully put.
from above the river.
Well put.
And-
That's exactly
And
right.
so we could be going back to our roots. It's sort of, back to the 50s anyway,
Mm-hmm.
with that kind of feel.
Clint?
Well, I'm definitely in support of all of these. I think they're all good. And
If you had to narrow it down.
I think immediately, I think just the trees along the parking garage could be, trimmed, and you can see the parking signs that we already have a little bit better and just work on that frontage of the parking garage. That would be something that'd be really easy to jump onto. I think our streetscaping, you know, is maybe something that could be looked at really fast and make a good improvement even before we have our major crowd come in on the 4th of July. And the public restrooms, I think that could be attended to before our crowds on 4th of July would be a really nice addition to just making a pleasant, you know, for our people coming into town.
I really think our restrooms just need to be cleaned. I think if they were cleaned on a regular basis and that kind of thing, I think they would be okay. But they're not clean.
One of the things, though, during the Chalk Festival that I noticed was the number of people who had to leave to take their kids home to go to the bathroom. And they had to hurry to the car to get there. If we had more public spaces available, there's a wonderful public restroom right at the trailhead on Shriner campus that is a very effective, very well located restroom, and a very good model of how a small public restroom could enhance the downtown area if there was a space available somewhere to put it that is convenient to the shops, to the events that will be held downtown. Additional would be correct, because you don't always know that there's a public restroom in that little alcove by the Arcadia.
What about in the parking garage? In the parking garage, is that a possible security risk?
No, wait a minute. You're going down another good idea here.
Well,
Two in a row? That's exactly right. What about, is there a public restroom available in the parking garage?
I don't think there is, but
No, there is not.
And you got the necessary plumbing and everything right there that could be right at, maybe at the corner
right, that's what I was.
of Water in Sydney Bay, right at that open corner that overlooks that intersection. Wow, that's a good idea.
You one for two. That's a terrible idea, but it's, you know. No, it is a good idea. I don't. I'm trying to think where you could put that.
Well, you're thinking, Will.
It's a good idea. I'm just
Inside the
Jack. I'm
parking
sorry.
garage.
Inside
On
the
that
parking
corner.
garage, right
Yes.
in
Like,
the corner.
there's a big gap, I think, kind of where the entrance to the offices are. There's a lot of kind of like just open space. It's not even a parking area. I don't know, you know, if there's some closets or.
We could talk about it with development services and kick that idea around. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, while you're thinking, Clint, anything else?
I think those are my 4 things:
Okay.
the streetscaping, the public restroom, the boardwalk, and the parking garage.
Okay. And Clint, or Andrew?
My thing would be the boardwalk and the river trail. And then I'll tack on the public restrooms on there too, because I think that I also like the idea we've talked about this before, is like the retractable or removable bollards in the street. I think all of that kind of plays into the bigger or larger vision of the boardwalk and what that could potentially, or the potential that it has for future festivals and events and the way we use our downtown. So I think that all kind of, in my mind, those things all kind of are foundational pieces to kind of build up to that overall vision. So those are my top things. But I do like all of them. I think they're all great, worthy ideas. I do also like the downtown Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing I'd add.
With that, I was going to ask, how far would the Wi-Fi go?
Charvy had sent me, I will have to find out. She sent me a map and there were different colors. And so I didn't know what the different colors meant. So I will get back to you on that.
Okay. And the other thing I'd wondered with that, we've talked about kiosks down there. Is a kiosk needed for, or is Wi-Fi needed for a kiosk? Or are
Oh.
they
I did not
not?
add that here. I was supposed to put that into grants. So kiosks, that is something that the Cultural Arts District is putting in for a grant in June, potentially for some informational kiosks. And so these would be kiosks kind of like you've seen in larger cities where you can go and you can look up and it would connect with the CVB to where you could see what activities were going on. And it's kind of like what's the next thing for me to do? It would be, if we do receive that grant funding, it would be restricted to those kiosks only being within the Cultural Arts District, which at the time being is just the core downtown. In June, we're also going to ask if they, because we applied under Main Street, so we kept it within those boundaries. We are no longer officially a Main Street city. But if we look back at the comp plan, we have a downtown arts and cultural district, which is within the Tirz, still not as large as the Tirz. So we're going to ask them if we can expand our boundary to that. So it would be limited to where they can physically be, but the kiosk would be for any event that is within this, potentially with the CVB. They have an app and stuff like that. If y'all don't know, please download the CVB's app. It's great if you're trying to figure out what to do for the day or for the weekend. And so that is what they're looking at putting in for a grant. And then they would need some matching funding. So then they would potentially come to the Tirz and ask them for that funding. We have a meeting April 7th. So I will know more then and can bring that back to you at our potentially April or May meeting with whatever their formal request is. It's about $10,000 a kiosk we're thinking right now. That was the last estimate that they had received, about $10,000 a kiosk. They're trying to figure out, how many do we really need? How much money are they putting into it? And then also potentially putting that out for bids for artists to do some sort of art around the kiosks to make them more eye-catching. And some of the examples have been really cool. It's not just like a little kiosk. It's like there's one of them, it looked like a seashell. Like the kiosk was within a seashell type of thing. Like really neat. So that is another request potentially that will be coming.
But Wi-Fi is not necessarily needed for that. It's
No,
self,
Mhm.
just
And it's-
within itself.
Kiosk is also a wayfinding map
Yes, ma'am.
with all the points, all the different buildings and everything.
Can I ask y'all about the Wi-Fi concept? So, when we talked to our IT folks, they were asking about that. They were like, and I don't know if this is presumptuous on our part, but most everybody's phones have a pretty good amount of Wi-Fi these days, and there's 5G on their phones. What we find is that during events where there's significantly more people, we'll call AT&T and have a mobile trailer come in for that event, but that's a one-time fee that we can account for a few times a year if that's the need, or is this more of like the internet's terrible downtown and we have a need for it to be boosted? That's my question, because I have a hard time I'm trying to understand the need for it.
Well, that was one of the reasons I kind of wanted to know how far it went and just is it something that really would benefit us?
Yeah, because
be
if it's
used?
for festivals,
I
that's a whole separate thing. We can bring in, we
okay.
can have a box brought in that boosts it. Because during the eclipse, everybody's internet was horrible, right? We could have used 3 or 4 more of those things out there, but we don't need it every day, and so
That was kind of my thought, is like for crowded events or things like that, you could just hook up to the Wi-Fi and you don't have to worry about being. So that would be like in my mind, it would have been a solution for that, as opposed to having to bring in extra support for cell service.
For an event, yeah, okay. I just wanted to understand that. All right.
And I can come back next time with more information in that map and better explanation about, there were reds and purples, and I didn't know what the difference between the red and the purple was, so that's why I didn't want to show you all a map and then not be able to explain it.
No. Well, one of mine is the boardwalk. I think that would be absolutely great. We need to do something about our bricks. We've talked about that ever since they started falling apart. I just really, really feel that that's important, and I think it's not only is it from a safety standpoint, we've had some issues there, but just how it looks. It's a perception thing for me, and so those would be two that I would want to for us to look at. I've got several others, but
Yeah, may I amend mine a little bit?
Yes.
Because in my mind, the boardwalk and the river trail on the north side from G Street to the library go hand in hand. They're kind of one and the same.
Yeah.
Because you make that big loop from the bridge that you take across from Louise Hayes, Tranquil Island, all the way to the library, and you go all the way on the north side, and then you go G Street back down, and you make a nice loop. That's just like Austin. That's the way, Town Lake used to be. Lady Bird Johnson Lake is, where you can make that loop. You add that to the boardwalk, and you got something big downtown. So I meant to say the boardwalk as well. I just assumed that it was the two went,
You may add that. And come next time, we can always have some other things.
Mm-hmm.
So Kelly, you've got some things maybe to kind of work with here, and
Yes, I'm going to come back for the next meeting with some updates on where we are with the river trail and maybe what next steps are with the boardwalk. I know Michael had some discussions with Freeze and Nichols with updating what that looked like and some pricing. So once we get that, then they'll let us know what the next step is, and maybe whatever that financial burden is, we can come to Tirz and ask if they can assist with that. Jefferson Street, I can come back with what potentially that might look like. Parking garage, a temporary sign. We'll figure out how much that would cost, and then installation and how that would work to put that up, and also finding out moving the marquees. The downtown, the bricks, yes. I would love, Michael knows, I would love for us to come up with a solution on the bricks, because we are starting to get more and more calls from people asking about their brick. What's going on with the bricks?
And we have no plan.
Yeah.
We have a public works yard full of bricks, and half of them, you have no idea whose brick it is. It barely says somebody's first name, and the other one's been rubbed off or broken. And it's just, understandably, people are passionate about it, and they're like, well, are you going to replace it? And I'm like, no, that project wasn't very long ago, and that thing already looks this way. Please no, ever again.
what's the time frame on those bricks? When were they put in? Over what period of time?
Is that a Todd Parton?
Is it like 2008?
I was going to say it's been a long time. It was under the old Main Street, and they need to be put to bed. We really do. They need to be put to bed. So come up with, if whatever you can
And
do.
then the public restroom, figuring out exactly what we could do between now and 4th of July to get that public restroom, give it a little facelift.
And maybe also, I would like to know, I think the Arcadia is responsible, and it's not accusations, it's just, what is their schedule, how does that work? for cleanliness, and maybe it just needs to be more often, or something of that nature. So if you guys have a chance, walk in sometime and take a look, smell, do all those good things.
So then whenever we get into grants, and y'all are more than welcome to make any motions. So exterior enhancement grant seems as if y'all would like to put an additional 50,000 towards it for just this year. Parking lots, another 30,000. What is y'all's appetite for someone who already received money for the exterior enhancement grant, but they also had asked for their parking lot? Are y'all
I think you should just look at it and figure out which one's the most important.
okay?
That's what I think.
See how your money goes and what other things are there, and
Okay. And then I will look into what upper floor activation and tenant. I'll start with those two, and tenant improvement. Just like I did with the exterior enhancement grant, where I come and I explain, okay, this is what it would look like, this is what would be included, these are all the stipulations, and then you say yay or nay changes, and then I would formally come back to you with with the resolution for y'all to. Is there an amount that y'all, so look, and going back to the what you're allowed, and you can stop, either of y'all can stop me at any time. At this point in time, you could put 250,000 into grants. Is that correct? Maybe.
Well, based on your fund balance right now, if you wanted to look at it that way, if you want to look at the life expectancy of the Tirz, that's a different way to look at it. So I guess it depends on how you want to look at it.
Okay. We'll stay
We can't
with the
exceed
fund.
25% over the life. So if you spent 250 a year, that'd be, I'd have to do some math on that.
Okay. But it could just be for like one time, and then we just reassess.
That's right.
Okay.
As long as you're not future committing before we've done the homework on it, yes.
Okay. So do y'all have any proposals on how much money you potentially would like to put towards upper floor activation and tenant improvement? Do you want to wait until I come back and we
I would like
discuss?
for you
Okay.
to wait. Let's see what you come back with.
Okay.
And one of the things I think we need to do, and our facade grant, that's part of it. But we need to do something else, I think, for the public to see. I mean, I think it's really important that they see maybe some more money being used towards something right now. That because we've talked about it, it is tax money, and so I think that
Is now the time for that, a motion for the $50,000 for additional grant funds for this year and 30,000 for the parking lot? Now's the time, I make that motion.
Second.
before we actually vote, what if we put 50 into paving
Parking lots?
parking lots?
And 30 into the other, or go 50/50?
No, 50/50. Is that,
Because we
I-
have.
is it too much? Is it,
No.
I mean, you guys on the committee, you kind of had a feel for what we had there. Is that something that,
I'm just having paved parking lots. If we do it at 5,000, which we can say what the grant amount is, 5,000, you'll always take any grant amount, correct?
But how much money is actually in the bank?
But whether you do it, one of them was what, caliche based or something. One of them was just like a gravel, and then one was true like chip seal. So we're gonna get grants that are gonna be for $20,000, and then some that are gonna be truly for $5,000. But again, $5,000 that they get, they're gonna. I would think any business is gonna greatly appreciate any help
Any
that they
offset.
can get.
Right.
and we would be able to help we'll be able to show the citizens, the taxpayers of Kerrville, this is where your tax dollars are going. So it's positive PR all the way around.
So it'd be, amend my motion to say 50
50 and 50.
additional for the grants and 50 for parking lots.
I still second it.
Yeah,
I mean, is 20,000 too much to ask for? I mean, and put into it in this case, so.
I think it's fine. I think it's great. Like I said, I think there's a demand and appetite for it. And okay, if we don't use all of it, we don't use all of it. But
Well, that's true.
At least it gives us the option and some more wiggle room to help more people if it's there.
and in addition to that, in order to determine your question about if they have received a grant, should they also receive paving? How does the motion need to be worded to give you the latitude to make that decision?
To where it just would not be a restriction,
Yeah.
as long as you
Okay.
just don't make a
It's 50 and
restriction.
50.
Yeah.
50-50 with no restriction on parking lot parking lot enhancements if there's been a grant in place for that business. No restriction on,
Passed.
right, either or.
Because I will still need to bring this ordinance, both of them, I will still have to bring them back to this committee for us to formally approve it, and then it would go to council. And then Julie just wants everyone to be sure that whenever we're looking at what we're spending this year versus all the other projects, realizing that right now we're only potentially bringing in $370,000 a year. Just keeping that in mind for any larger projects that we might need to save up for down the road, keeping within our allotted percentage.
I would do this as like a fall grant.
This is the fall would be the first time any of this money could be actually allocated.
By the time you get all this done.
By the time we
this
get
would
it
be-
done.
So, if I came to you in May, then I would go to council end of May, and then I could get that extra 50,000 for the exterior grant out May, June, by July. Yeah, it would not be before July 4th, but it could still go in, it would still be
But we could
before
make the announcements before July 4th that this has happened and businesses are going to get this kind of infusion of money to make improvements in their facilities.
Yes, sir.
That'd be a good announcement.
There's no way to make it speed up.
I would,
No.
if, no.
Okay.
I mean,
Michael knows
Y'all
I'm
can
a
meet next
people
week.
pleaser, I'm sure. So,
okay.
okay, did y'all have a first and a second? Do we have everything we need? Oh, do they need to vote officially?
We have to vote.
Okay.
So give us the motion again.
I move that we allocate $50,000 to extend the grant program, and $50,000 for parking lots, and that staff is not encumbered. But there's no restriction on parking lot grants or parking lot improvements if they have already received a grant or if they want to receive a grant. Receiving a parking lot enhancement does not decrease their chances of getting a grant for exterior enhancements.
I'm not sure we need all of that. Do we? I don't think we need all.
Well, I was kind of double sure that I explained at least part of it that she could use.
But I think if we just say,
Do you want me to do it?
pardon?
Simply with no restrictions.
There you go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, 50 and 50, no restrictions.
No restrictions.
Okay.
Okay,
I second that motion.
okay, we have a second. All in any other comments, questions? All in favor, right hand. And we have a passed motion. Approved.
Okay.
Okay,
Last thing, and I will make this
Can I
quick.
ask one
Oh, yeah,
question?
go.
Are we did we determine that we're gonna put all of these out for like new applicants, or is it,
Just existing.
or just
Right.
existing?
Yeah. And so, yes, we can, so even for parking, I can go back to those and we can see how much money is left over after that. And I can come back to you.
so in other words, it can be either.
Mhm.
We're looking at those who have already applied or new applications.
Because for the parking one, I will have to make a whole separate ordinance that the exterior enhancement one, it will look exactly the same, just
Do
adding
you
another
need two
50.
motions? Are you okay with one?
No,
Yeah,
I
you're
believe we
okay.
can do it off of one.
Okay,
Could-
Good.
Could I make one more suggestion?
sure.
So for the people that didn't get to apply, they're gonna wanna jump on this bandwagon. Can we put a motion in to renew what you did, for the initial, grant, starting at a certain period, to start turning in applications, so other people can, step in and maybe word it to where, if you do the improvements, that you'll be considered on the next step or the next grant coming in. Does that make sense?
I think that's what Jack was trying to clarify.
Well, except we have to be
But
careful
maybe-
with what Julie points out, we can't spend money we haven't got, right? We can't pre-spend money. So let's
25
make sure that doesn't happen and we're good.
20, okay. Well,
And they can't
That's
have
25.
already spent the money.
Correct.
25% of 335,000 is 92,500. Right? So would you be able to, you can't do it for next year.
But I think it's the balance. I don't think it's the revenue. That was my understanding.
It's for the
Clarify
balance.
that for us, Julie.
That's-
It's the balance,
And we're at
not
$1
just
million
what
right
we're
now.
bringing
Yeah,
in
so-
every
okay,
year.
so-
On the 25%,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's over the
250.
life of the TERS. So when we close out
will
this
spend
TERS, we're gonna have to prove how we
Just
spent
a
it.
second. Let's see what Julie has to say.
So the life of the TERS, so when we close out this TERS, we have to prove how we spent it. So we do reporting every year to the comptroller, basically saying what we spent and how we spent it. So over the life of the TERS, because you may have a bigger project one year than you have the next, and so you wouldn't be able to necessarily stay within the 10% for public infrastructure in 1 year. If you did a big project, it would exceed 10%. So it's the life of the TERS and what the anticipated revenue is of the TERS. But I'm not sure if, exactly what you're asking. If people who've already received money should have to reapply for new money? I don't think I was understanding. I was trying to follow what the
Let me see if I
question
can
was.
explain it better. I was, basically just, doing the same exact grant that, Kelly did last year. Just if we could put a proposal in to do that grant again and opening that up for new applicants.
So that would,
Go ahead. Yeah.
so,
Now, I just wanna make sure I'm saying it right.
yeah.
You know, everything that we voted for is in place. But go ahead and now, redo what you've already done with your 50,000 from last
Set it
year.
up
So
for-
it's all set up for the next term.
Ah.
And then we have the people that go, oh man, I wish I would've got in on that.
So that's already.
Then they can start applying like this.
Yeah.
And they're not left out.
If
And
council approves the extension of it, we can just open it back up and say there is additional funding for this grant.
Mhm.
With 50,000 going to enhancements and 50,000 going towards parking lot improvements. For those of you that already applied and weren't awarded grants, you don't need to apply again for the same grant. It's already there, and we'll just take new applicants for a month or whatever.
Yeah, because this board had already proposed to council the potential of $50,000 each fiscal year. So naturally, it would already open up again for FY '27. We are just, wait, which fiscal year are we on right now?
26, but that's not how, I don't think that's how the agreement was written. We didn't commit future funds.
Well, because you have the
Well, our
50,000.
That's
Oh,
just cash flow.
okay.
That's all estimated.
So are we operating under another motion that automatically makes it 50 every year?
That,
You can't. You can't, because you don't know the Tirz, the valuation of the Tirz could drop to
Okay.
nothing.
Okay,
You can, the only thing that could ever happen when it comes to that, I was thinking about this, cause this was part of that first discussion, the only thing that could ever be committed is a percentage of the funds could be committed on an annual basis, but never a dollar amount, because the county could buy more land downtown and reduce the value of property, cause now it's off the rolls. So you can't commit a dollar value every year. It's not
Okay.
allowed.
but we don't have a motion of any sort for ongoing. We need to do it year by year by
yes,
year.
year by year, yes.
Right.
Yes,
And so
Right.
we can bring this back up, right before, yeah, right around budget, and I guess in August, and for that to be your proposal. And now we already have everything in place, so once y'all say, okay, we have enough for $50,000 to go into exterior enhancement for FY '27, council approves, and then we can just move forward with that grant again.
you're comfortable with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Are we correct in assuming that there are grants that have been applied for now that have been turned down because we did not have the funds at the time?
Correct. And
All right, now, we could, with this additional 50, go back and speak to those that did not have the money at the time without reapplying and
correct.
without reissuing, and that may or may not total 50, but it could, up to 50.
Mhm.
If there is an amount left over after all of the current applicants have been taken care of, that money will remain in the TIF, and we will not, we won't spend that.
Correct.
We will spend what next year's grant letting will allow us to grant. Am I on the right track there?
Yes.
Okay.
But are you indicating that all applicants who have already applied should receive funding? Or only,
Could.
okay.
If they did not receive fundings because we didn't have the funds, that's one thing.
Right.
If they didn't receive funding because there was some something wrong with their application, we can't help that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we can if everything was good except for the amount of
I just
money
wanna
we
make
had.
sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, just thinking back of our conversation, there were a couple of businesses, Vecinos, for instance. We all love them, we really wanted it, but it was like, there were so many other people with other needs that we all felt very badly that we couldn't get, because they were on our short list. And so I'm gonna go back to our short list and we can start there.
But
There
as
you-
you open this back up to new people who said, I didn't know this existed, we will have to redo all of that, what they did initially, where it was, okay, there's $100,000 now. It doesn't just go to the people who applied that were left over, it is a whole new ranking.
I
that'll
don't think
come
they
back
should
to
get
everybody.
first, I don't believe they should get first come, first serve.
No. We will not do that.
No. That's good.
Okay.
That's good. Primarily because ignorance is not bliss.
No,
And
it-
everybody else knew, why didn't y'all know?
We apply for grants all the time, the
Yeah.
same one every year, and funding doesn't exist, and we didn't make the cut, and we do it again the next year. And
Yep.
if better applications that serve a better purpose, based on the recommendations of whatever
Yeah.
selection committee.
Good news. Now that you know about this grant program, you'll be able to apply for our next round of grants, which will come next year,
They'll be,
as opposed to,
I mean.
Yeah.
That's the most equitable way to do it.
Okay, is everyone clear on what we're doing and how Kelly and the committee are doing it? Okay, tell us again, Kelly, from what you are understanding us to say. Let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Well, I was understanding it Michael, so I'm going to look at the list of applicants that I already have that were not funded. And from that list, are you saying that legally we can't do that, Michael? That we have to technically open it back up?
Do you
That's what-
have to
Because
open
I
it
was
back
just
up?
gonna go back and look at
Is the
the
recommendation of this body to keep just, okay, we're gonna add more money and those people that applied, there's funding gonna go to that? Or folks who didn't know about the grant are like, well, I missed the deadline, right? I'd like to apply. I mean, that's a discussion, right? This is gonna be the next 2 months, 3 months, we're talking about this before it's implemented. There'll be plenty of people who go, hey, I didn't know about that, and I'm in the Tirz district, I'd like to apply for it. I guess my question is to y'all, is the intent for it to be just whatever was applied for as of January? And that
It's
funding
pretty
goes-
much what we've been saying.
Mhm. Yeah.
But then that's where I added in, could we open up another one so people can start applying again
And
No.
ideally,
Gosh,
that would
all
be
right.
for the next fiscal
Yeah.
year.
It'd be for the next round.
for next fiscal year? Okay. That
All right,
sounds
so,
good.
Okay.
so,
But at
so it
least-
is closed, so you're not gonna open it up to anybody new.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not open to anybody new. That's the next round. What we're doing is providing for those who had an altogether good grant application, other than the fact that we ran out of money before we got to them.
Yes,
That's what we're taking care of right now. Are those folks?
yes.
Okay.
Because
I have a
like we said, we
question.
had $198,000 in requests. So if the committee goes back through, we can easily find, another 13 individuals and projects that.
And these are all good applications, not problematic applications that had a problem other than.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll take care of the facades.
Mhm.
What about the parking?
So with the parking, we can go back to those who have asked, those 7, and say we are now going to give $5,000 to those that had requested for parking. So that would cover 30,000. So then I guess my question to you, I guess the question is, we can then open it up to where those 7 would be part of that, and then we would have to technically open it up for more applicants
For parking.
for parking.
Okay, so really, even though we moved it to 50, you really don't need more than 30 for which you already have applications.
Yes, ma'am. If we're keeping with that $5,000 cap, which we should.
Okay. Then whatever's left over
Mhm.
from each of these buckets will simply go back, stay in the fund,
It can stay in the fund.
and
And then we can talk about it for
For next year.
2027 and say, okay, we have this much money left. For instance, someone said, it's gonna be X amount for me to paint. They turned in the receipts and it was way lower than what we expected. So we are gonna see some
Some
of these, and there
adjustments.
is gonna be a balance, and we can discuss what to do with that balance once everything kind of shakes out.
okay. Okay.
What about, let me ask, what about those who may have been turned down, accepted the fact, and have started spending their,
We will not be able to reimburse anything that has already been spent.
should we prioritize that early on and let these folks know there's a new round? Or there's additional funding?
I
Don't-
can send,
Don't
yeah, I
start
still
your
have,
projects yet.
yes, I can send an email to the applicants, who did not receive funding and let them know that additional funding has been set aside. We will be reviewing applications again, and that we will let them know in the next month or so.
I think that will help a great deal in keeping hard feelings from being
Yes.
created. Well, if I had known,
Yeah.
yada, yada,
Completely understand.
Will that change their time limit for getting it completed?
Yes, we will, that, those applications, so we would give them 12 months also. So, their contract would just read differently of when the money
it's
has
done.
to be
Okay.
spent. Mhm.
Okay. Everybody clear? Okay, first time we've done this,
No,
so
and,
we're
yeah, making sure.
making sure. Thank you. All right, very
Okay,
good.
very
Let's
last
finish
thing,
up.
just because I literally have 7 minutes before I have to go pick up my kid. So last year, Tirz set aside $100,000 towards $1 million grant that we were going to be applying to for a community block grant. That funding it was a federal funding, like a lot of things. It dried up. There was no funding. It came back around. It's the exact same grant. And so we do need to approve the new resolution with the new year. The one big thing is that you, before it was 10%, now you only have to do 20,000, not 100,000. I'm going to suggest that you keep at 100,000 because it's a scoring system. Before we got extra points for being a Main Street community. We're no longer a Main Street community, but you can get extra points for committing more than the minimum. So you had already set aside 100,000. I wanted to make sure before you say yes to this resolution that you are okay with committing still to that 100,000. And there's two phases to this grant. The first phase is just saying we are interested. I show them that we have, because it goes toward designated to promote pedestrian-centered economic activity to be supported by local documentation. So I can show that through our meetings, this meeting and all that we've discussed, and the comp plan. Then once they say, yes, you are approved, then we say this is the specific project. And so we would have to tell them in August what the specific project is. So you would approve this resolution, I would take it to council, we would apply April 3rd, and then we would find out in May if we received it, and then we would discuss what's the specific project we want to submit, and then I have to submit that in August. So
Well, an alternative would be to change the 100,000.
yes, ma'am.
That amount.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody think we need to do that?
I'm
I
happy
think we
with,
should be at 100, and then, so that we
Yeah.
could be more guaranteed to get it. But how much is the grant, what's the value of the grant?
Max we will receive is $1 million.
but I'm happy with 100 because I thought it was gonna be 100 and then 20,000 more for enhancements or to position ourselves in the next phase. And this is, by being $20,000 and setting aside 100 for that in case money that will enhance our position and get us a better opportunity to receive the grant, that's great news for me.
Yeah, I think it gives us the extra points that we
Do
might
you
need.
want consensus? Do you need a motion?
I need a motion for this resolution, because it is a brand-new resolution technically.
Okay.
And then I'll bring it to council, for for their next meeting.
Okay. Do you need both amounts in there, 20 and 100?
No.
No.
Just as it's written in the resolution, it says 100,000. I just wanted to be transparent about
Okay.
that portion.
Okay. So someone want to make a motion,
I'll move.
but we gotta make sure we're making a motion to authorize the Community Development Block Grant Program. Do we need, what else?
You
do
can
we-
just say, a motion to approve resolution number 17-2026.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Move to approve 2026.
17-2026.
Funding with $100,000.
Yes.
Yes, it does have $100,000 on it.
Oh,
as it's
okay.
written.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Crystal. All in favor, right hand, please. Or a hand, doesn't make a difference. So, we're good.
Clint, I
Okay.
did the same thing. We both had our left hands up.
Okay, all right, I think we're good.
Thank you.
You may leave, Kelly, thank you. Okay,
don't like it when you're late to pick up your kid from
no, you can't, you should not be late, that's tough on kids. Okay, I don't believe we need an executive session, and I think we've had enough action items to take care of everything we need. So, at 5:18, we are adjourned.
You need a motion?
Thank you all, I'm sorry it was so late, and we'll try to keep it better, shorter.